This is Bruce Wall from the City of Scottsdale's Neighborhood College Program. We're all in this together.
The City of Peoria, we're in this together.
The City of Chandler, we're in this together.
Town of Queen Creek, we're in this together.
Hi, this is Jamie from the City of Scottsdale with my daughter Jocelyn. Whether you're working from home or doing kindergarten from home, we want to remind you that we're in this together.
City of Tempe, we are in this together.
Let's start out by just saying hi, everybody. My name is Beth Mulcahy, and I'd like to welcome you today to our third virtual HOA Academy. I'm the managing partner and senior attorney of the Mulcahy Law Firm in Phoenix, Arizona, and I've enjoyed practicing in the area of representing associations for the past 23 years, working with many different planned communities and condominiums throughout the state of Arizona. I've also served on my association board for over a decade, and so I have some stories from being in the trenches as a board member as well as working as an attorney with different associations. First, I'd like to just start out by thanking our fall virtual HOA Academy cities, towns, and municipalities that are working with us this year. The different cities that are participating in the virtual HOA Academy today are Avondale, Chandler, Glendale, Goodyear, Mesa, Peoria, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe, and Surprise, and the town of Queen Creek. So I'd like to just give a shout out to them at the beginning of our seminar today to thank them for participating in this virtual HOA Academy. In case you've missed any previous classes that we've had for our law firm as Facebook Lives or previous virtual HOA Academies that we've had with these different cities, you can find these in recorded video form on our firm's website at mulcahylawfirm.com. All you need to do is just click on the videos page on the home page of our webpage. And also, we're going to post the link to see these previous classes videos in the comment section of this video here today. Well, first, I'd just like to start out by saying we're so honored to work with the wonderful representatives from Neighborhood Services from across the Valley year after year, and I truly can't thank them enough for providing this free education for board members and homeowners and managers in our industry. These different cities truly realize how important education and teamwork are. And year after year, they commit their resources to providing their residents with tools needed to be successful and to build communities and to follow the law. And so this fall HOA Academy is no exception. I think since the beginning of the pandemic, as I've been partnering for the virtual HOA Academy with these many different cities, we've all said that we are in this together, and truly we are better together if we're working together to provide this free education. So thank you again to all those different cities. We appreciate you participating and being a part of this program today. So let's start out with what are our topics for today. When we were preparing for this class last week, we decided to do a survey, and I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more in a few minutes, of what people felt were silver linings in their association and in their management companies due to the pandemic. And so the first thing we're going to start out with is I'm going to share the information that we received from the survey. And then also our firm has added things that we've learned, and also information that we've received from board members and managers about some positive impacts of the pandemic on our area of representing community associations. We're also going to talk about a fun subject, which is turning around a dysfunctional association. So what are the things that we do to successfully turn around dysfunctional associations? And how can we help you? So if you're one of those associations that's in one of those positions right now, what are some tips that we can give you to help you so that you can make your association more functional? Okay, first let's start out with just a quick little COVID-19 update. I'm really so happy to tell you that we don't have a lot of updates for this class on anything pertaining to COVID-19, which is awesome because I think we can all agree that the past 6 or 7 months have been really kind of stressful, and we've had a lot of different updates that we've had to provide. And management companies and boards have had to pivot. And so it's nice to finally, for once, be able to say, hey, we don't have any new state mandates that we want to discuss. But what we do want to discuss is that we've had a few clients contacting us over the past few weeks talking about having in-person gatherings, whether it's board meetings or committee meetings, or maybe they're thinking about planning some events for their community, such as like a fall festival, Halloween, block parties, holiday events in November and December. And they're asking for my opinion as legal counsel for associations as to whether that's a good idea and what sort of precautions they should be taking. Just as a reminder, remember that indoor and outdoor gatherings are still limited to 50 people in Arizona right now. And we really are recommending that associations and communities exercise caution. If you're planning to have a in-person board meeting or in-person committee meetings, I don't know any associations that are doing that right now. Almost everybody has transitioned to having virtual board meetings, so you need to hear that feedback. If you are having them in person, make sure that you're talking with your trusted advisors, such as your attorney, your management company, your insurance agent, and make sure that you have precautions in place, such as make sure it's outside, make sure that you have social distancing measures in place, and make sure that there are mandatory masks and signage that indicate that people are attending the meeting at their own risk. But again, we really are recommending against in-person board meetings, annual meetings, committee meetings at this time, because there's so many great resources available online. Why put anyone in your community in jeopardy during this kind of uncertain time? Other questions that we've had are, hey, should we be having fall festivals, Halloween, block parties? And really, that's just a question that you're going to have to determine for your association. I know that trick-or-treating obviously is going to look very different, unfortunately, for our children this year. Just be very careful that if you are having these type of events, that you're following the state guidelines on the number of people that can attend. And also that you're making masks mandatory, you're having signage saying that people are entering at their own risk, social distancing measures in place. And maybe just think about, maybe this is the year to skip it or to do some sort of an event that is not potentially dangerous to your residents, such as like a grab and go, Halloween event, or a pumpkin carving contest where people can just drop off the pumpkins and we can announce the results live on social media or in some other forum. So this is a good year to be creative and to think outside the box as to what are some different things that we all can be doing that are safe for ourselves and our residents. Okay, I'm hearing feedback that people are asking me to talk a little louder. So I'm going to turn up the volume, just make sure I've got that up as high as possible. And I hope that you're able to hear me. If you can give me a thumbs up or a smiley face if you're hearing me a little better now, that would be appreciated. Okay, let's start out now and talk a little bit about silver linings. What are some lessons that we have learned over the past 7 months, and what are some changes that we might be making in the future once the pandemic is over? So I'm glad to see a thumbs up that I'm talking a little bit louder. Please always provide us feedback throughout the presentation. If you're not able to hear me or if there's a problem, we want to make sure that we're giving you the best presentation possible. So we appreciate that. So basically, since the pandemic started, we've all had to pivot. We've all had to be creative and think about things that we can do to maintain our businesses and to continue getting work done. And so one of the things that we decided to do last week to prepare for this class was to have a survey. And we asked a number of questions. I think there were 9 questions, and we're going to be sharing the information that we got from the survey over the next few weeks. But really, one of the most important things that I thought was really interesting was we were hoping we would get, maybe 40 or 50 people respond to the survey. We had an unbelievable response of 200 managers, board members, and owners responded to the survey in less than 48 hours. So I just want to start out by saying, if you were one of those people that responded to the survey, thank you so much for doing that. You provided some great information, not only on silver linings, but on some other topics that we're going to be discussing as we move forward with these neighborhood service virtual HOA Academy classes, and then also on social media and through our Mulcahy memos. So thank you. So what are the silver linings that our firm and that managers we work with and boards that we work with and the 200 people that responded to the survey, what are the silver linings that we've seen? And so what we basically did is we divided it up into different categories. And the one thing that I was thinking of last week as I was reviewing all these categories was, it has been a really difficult time for everybody. I know I've been distance learning with my children, and I had at one point had to take my entire firm, virtual, and, we had to learn how to use Zoom and adjust quickly to a lot of these government orders. And that was stressful. But I have to say, as I was reading through all these silver linings that, over 200 people provided us feedback on, I was really so happy to see that so much good had come from the pandemic. And so it's nice to share a positive subject with all of you today. So let's talk about the first, feedback that we received as a silver lining. Well, it's virtual. Everything went virtual, right? So virtual meetings, virtual technology. So the responses were overwhelmingly positive about virtual meetings, which is great. People are accepting it, using it frequently now. Almost every board meeting that I attend now is virtual. And if you're one of those boards out there that hasn't adjusted yet and hasn't been able to conduct an annual meeting this year or hasn't been able to have board meetings virtually, please reach out to us. We're here to help you. We have a wonderful cheat sheet on how to have a virtual board meeting with a lot of great tips for you. We also are offering boot camps where we get online with the board and we show you all the cool features of how to have a virtual board meeting. And also for some associations, I've been attending their virtual meeting, the first one that they do with their residents, and just helping you through the process as the moderator. So overwhelmingly positive comments. We love virtual meetings, is what we heard from a lot of people. It's allowed for board meetings, annual meetings, and removal meetings to be shorter, which I think we can all appreciate for any of us who are in the industry. Sometimes the long board meetings are kind of a drag for everybody. So to be able to get in and out of a board meeting in a relatively quick time, that's amazing. Another thing, it's been easier for boards to reach a quorum. In the past, maybe if somebody was traveling in the summer or they lived off site, there were occasionally meetings that they would miss. Well, now there's really no excuse for us to miss meetings if the meetings are virtual. More people are also participating and attending meetings. I know just from my board where I live, maybe we were lucky to have 8 or 9 people come to a board meeting, even if it was a really hot topic. Now we're regularly seeing 50, 60, 70 people attend the virtual meetings. And that's really important because that's a great way to recruit new board members. It's a great way to stop gossip that's untrue in their tracks because more people know the truth. And it's just great that people are wanting to be more involved in our communities now. Lower attorney's fees, maybe bad for me, but good for you. People that are having me attend their board meetings virtually, they don't have to pay for the attorney's travel time. And likely I'm at the meeting for a shorter period of time than I normally would be. And so it's resulting in some savings for boards in terms of how much money they have to budget for legal fees. Another thing is more owners, local and out of state, can come to these meetings, which is great, especially if you have investor owners or owners who live in Canada or other parts of the country. Now they're able to participate on a regular basis if they choose to do so. People are finding that the virtual meetings are acceptable, they're user-friendly, we're not having difficulties with owners or boards being able to log into meetings, so that's great. Communication methods have changed in a positive way. Now we're using video, social media, and constant contact to convey information. And most business now, most of our clients are either reaching out to us by email or phone or a Zoom meeting now to ask questions and to get answers faster. So more businesses being conducted in a more timely manner. One thing that virtual meetings have, kind of pushed us to accept virtual meetings out of our comfort zone, try something new, adjust well to change circumstances. You may not be aware of this, but the neighborhood services from around the valley are aware of this. About 2.5 years ago, our firm had a meeting with all the neighborhood services representatives from the different cities that we are teaching these classes for today. And the topic of our class was, where do we see these classes going in the future? And we were talking about virtual meetings 2.5 years ago. And it's interesting that we thought it would be the future maybe in 5 years, but it's interesting how the pandemic has really put that on fast forward. And now it's something that, is something that we likely will be using well into the future. Some boards have told me they prefer using Zoom. They, don't like going to the meetings in person, and they prefer doing them, by Zoom. And that allows boards to not have any travel time to get to the meetings. And many of these boards want to use virtual meetings after the pandemic because of the efficiencies that have been created with it and the many benefits. And just some kind of fun comments that we got on the survey were, we had our most professional annual meeting in the last 6 years. The difficult owners were less difficult during the meeting when it was virtual. And I can even say that firsthand knowledge with my association. We have one real challenging situation with a homeowner in our association. And that homeowner has been on best behavior for the past 6 months. So, I think these are all positive things. Something that I've noticed as an attorney in this industry of representing associations is that now boards will call me on my cell phone and ask me to pop on a Zoom meeting at the last minute if something comes up, and that's totally easy to do. And so it's just created so many efficiencies. So virtual meetings, we think, are something that will, go forward even after the pandemic has ended, and it will create different opportunities and efficiencies for your association. Another subtopic that we have learned that the pandemic has been a silver lining is more time. A common theme that I've heard from a lot of board members is that they've attended more education sessions on HOA law, on different topics that they may be interested in. They've read more books, listened to more podcasts, listened to webinars, Facebook Live presentations by our firm than they ever have before. So another silver lining is more education and more opportunities for people to listen. This also has having more time on our hands has allowed boards to reprioritize matters that are important and to really think about long-term strategic plans for their association, or maybe some capital improvement projects that they've always wanted to do that maybe now they've had some time to actually plan them. It's also allowed associations and communities to think about what 2021 is going to look like and to think outside the box in terms of, are we going to be able to open up some of our common areas if they haven't totally been open now? Or, are we going to be able to have the regular events like Bridge and socials in our community in 2021? So we've really been having time to think about these things, and we have more time on our hands, right? Some feedback that we received from management companies are that almost all aspects of HOA and condo business can be done remotely, except on-site inspections. And that gives the managers more time with their families, loved ones, friends, pets. And that's great, because I think one of the things that we see in our industry is that managers do get burned out. This is a really tough job. It's a tough job being a board member, tough job being a manager, tough job being an attorney representing associations. And so having the flexibility to work remotely and to attend meetings remotely by Zoom has definitely improved the quality of life for a lot of people. Another thing is that managers were considered essential workers under Governor Ducey's orders, so they had no disruption in their employment. And we heard from many managers how thankful they were to have a job during the pandemic and to be in an industry where we still were able to continue working. And I can second that. I'm very appreciative myself because I have a family to support, and I have employees with our firm, team members with our firm, and we were able to continue working without missing a beat. So I'm very appreciative for being in this industry. Having the on-site management office open by appointment only was some other feedback that the management companies gave me, has allowed the managers to better manage their workload. So one of the common complaints that we hear from managers is we have too much work and not enough time. And so having the front office being closed except to appointments really allowed the managers to focus on their tasks at hand. And maybe that's something that will extend on through the pandemic. Maybe that's something that, management companies will need to take a close look at. Maybe we only have office hours at management companies, a couple days a week and for a few hours at a time. Creativity of the management companies, just continuing on with management companies, the way that the management companies were creative to work around COVID closures and restrictions. A lot of the managers were really pleased with that. Some comments we heard from boards were that our management company and our board have worked seamlessly throughout the last 8 months, which is awesome. That shows a really great relationship. We also noticed as a firm that there were fewer changes in managers leaving management companies. We felt that there was less fighting between boards and management companies and less disagreements, so that's a good thing. And frankly, a greater appreciation of management companies and staff was a feedback that we received from a couple different people who signed up and did this survey. And one comment that just kind of really touched my heart was a board member said they've shown up every day and they've been here for us, and we really appreciate that. So I think we do need to give a shout out to the management companies. They have been working overtime during the pandemic to make sure that your communities are safe, and and they have had to work just like healthcare workers in a different way, but they have had to been out on the front lines working on behalf of all of us. Okay, so our last two silver linings are going to be on association finances and stronger communities. If I'm missing any that you feel that you'd like added, make sure you make a comment in the comment section so that we're making sure that we're catching all of them, because we are going to do a cheat sheet that talks about silver linings and what the pandemic is going to do to shape the future of our industry. And we're going to be getting that out to everybody in the next month or so. So some other silver linings from the pandemic would be association finances. One great thing is a vast majority of owners continue to pay assessments, and those who cannot pay assessments are proactively reaching out to boards asking for payment plans or possibly refinancing. Our firm has seen a huge uptick in payment plans and refinancing. But the survey that we did last week actually had some interesting results. We saw a national survey that was done in May where it was saying that maybe there'd been a 1% or just a little under 1% increase in the number of collection files. And the survey that we did last week showed that 74%, I think, of the associations that responded to the survey had indicated that owners were still paying assessments, but then we saw an uptake in the percentage number of owners that weren't. So 74% were, associations said that their owners were still paying their assessments, but we had 24% that said that they'd seen an uptick in the number of owners that hadn't paid. So I think we really need to keep an eye on that, and we're going to be talking about that in our next Facebook Live next Tuesday. About what are some suggestions if we're seeing an increase in the number of delinquencies. Some other association finances issues is associations were really careful. They watched their finances, watched expenses. They had some cost savings that they had as a result of the pandemic. And, boards are now taking a common sense approach and showing compassion, which is awesome. They're allowing payment plans for their owners that are in difficult situations. Owners are gracious for the empathy that's being shown by the boards. And so it's really a two-way street, and it's really heartwarming to see that as a result of the pandemic. And we know this because we're talking to homeowners and boards regularly, and we're also seeing it too. Okay, some other few things that we can just kind of finish up. Stronger communities is definitely something that we're seeing through the pandemic. Community spirit through clothing drives, food drives, sidewalk libraries, chalk on the sidewalks with positive messages, neighborly acts of kindness. All of these things during the pandemic have been really a wonderful silver lining. Neighbors are getting to know each other, waving to each other, having more concern for each other with wellness checks. Residents are being more cooperative, understanding, and patient, which is awesome for the boards and the management companies. And let's face it, we've seen very few COVID-19 cases in associations and management companies, which shows that people really took the virus seriously and followed many of the state and CDC guidelines. Since many people are at home during the pandemic and working from home, boards have noticed a decrease in compliance-related matters, and people are making improvements to their home, which is awesome. We've been a little bit more lax on violations. We've noticed that many boards have been a little more lax on violations, especially during the quarantine, when homeowners may have not been making any money, and maybe doing a special assessment for painting or requiring people to paint. That may be something that some boards put off. Some comments that we heard from boards on building communities is that their board's been more organized, they've communicated better to their owners, they've made decisions faster, and they've tried to be more friendly and understanding to homeowners. Some miscellaneous things that were from our survey that we thought were kind of interesting and notable were community members are missing the personal contact at board meetings and socializing. Homeowners have noticed less traffic in the neighborhood, fewer short-term vacation rental issues, and less crime in neighborhoods. And many boards indicated that they've implemented procedures that are going to improve their overall efficiency of running their associations. And the pandemic gave boards time to work on document changes, CC&R amendments. This is a great time for associations to be working on that when people are staying home and not going out as much in public. And don't forget, if you're one of those associations that is thinking about doing a document amendment, our firm does offer the free 15-minute review. And what that is that if you send us your documents, we will review them at no charge for 15 minutes and provide you with feedback on what it takes to amend the documents, so the percentage of approval needed, and also give you some feedback on things that we think should be changed. COVID-19, just kind of as a conclusion on the pandemic silver linings, it showed communities that there are more than one way to do things. And so it allowed us to be flexible and to pivot and to be creative and to work together. So I think all those are just a really great, silver lining. Of course, like anything, when there's positives, sometimes there are negatives too. So I'm just going to spend like 30 seconds on some of the feedback that we got of negative things from the pandemic. Technology challenges. Some boards had difficulty transitioning to virtual meetings, and so we just want to mention that. If you are having technology challenges, please reach out to us. We're here to help you, and we can help your association transition and start doing virtual board meetings in a snap. Truly, we've done it with many associations, and we're here to help you. Loss of in-person contact between, board members and managers, board members and attorneys, board members and board members. It's been hard to not have the in-person contact. It's been difficult to welcome new owners to our community. Because we really can't just go knock on their door and deliver something now. It's people are more concerned about having the in-person contact. Uncertainty with the economy caused anxiety for everybody. Uncertainty with, just even going to places and whether you could catch anything. The virus in different locations caused a lot of anxiety for people. We did receive some pushback from some owners about closing amenities. We noted that as we were navigating these issues with the board and as the government was mandating closures. And I think we can all agree that this was a stressful and unprecedented time for everybody. But just to close on a positive note on this, it also made us better. This is really kind of the summary of our entire virtual HOA Academy. Together we are better, and together we were able to overcome a lot of these obstacles, and hopefully we'll be able to take many of these silver linings and pick and choose which ones we will use as we move forward post-pandemic in our industry. Okay, so we're right at the halfway mark, which is awesome. We're right on time for our timing today. So our second topic that we're going to be talking about is turning around a dysfunctional association. So for those of you that are inclined to do so, if you want to put in the comment any examples of a dysfunctional association, I'm going to start out by just giving you some examples that we've seen over the 23 years that I've been practicing law. So what are the characteristics of a dysfunctional association? So probably one of the first things that I would say I get a call is that a board member or the entire board is being recalled by the members. That should be a really big warning sign. Hey, things are not going well here. The association is involved in multiple lawsuits and being sued by owners or maybe being sued by vendors. Board meetings are stressful and confrontational. Disgruntled owners cause board members to quit or get burned out. The board doesn't communicate well with owners, and there's all sorts of misinformation and gossip and false theories about things that the board's doing. Owners are making a lot of records requests because typically that kind of goes hand in hand with not having good communication. Vendors are resigning. Maybe your management company's quitting, your landscaper's quitting, your attorney's quitting. These are all big red flags for your association that, hey, we've got some dysfunction here. Some other examples that I can, give you from, just working with many associations over the years. Board members are fighting. There's a ton of deferred maintenance and no money to fix anything. There's no reserve fund. Maybe your association has experienced embezzlement by an employee or an independent contractor or maybe even a board member. Maybe there's a lack of transparency by your board. Maybe your people in your community think that the board's doing things behind closed doors. Amenities aren't being maintained, misinformation being spread around a community, no plan for the future for your community. These are all, examples that we see of characteristics of a dysfunctional association. So now that we've got those off our chest, what are some things that we can do to help us get through this time? If you're one of these dysfunctional associations, or maybe your association is functioning really well and you're just here listening because this is something that, one wrong turn and now you're in the dysfunctional zone, right, for your association. So first thing I want to say is if you're one of these associations that has any of the problems that I just discussed, any of the characteristics, please reach out to your trusted advisors. We are here to help you. We have been through this with so many associations and we've successfully helped them turn things around. And so talk with your management company, talk with your CPA, talk with your insurance agent, talk with your reserve specialist that's helped you with your reserve company. Talk with your attorney that has helped you through things in the past and get their expert advice to help you make good decisions as you navigate this dysfunction in your community. And a couple things I just want to start out, some resources that we have for you that I think would be really helpful for your association. Those of you who are familiar with our firm know that we have over 60 cheat sheets on our website. And our website is mulcahylawfirm.com. And we have a cheat sheets tab right on the homepage of our website. And one of the first cheat sheets that I'd like to encourage you to look, if you're one of these associations that's dealing with a dysfunctional association right now, is we have a cheat sheet on personality types. And I actually have it right here in front of me. It's called, a quick overview of using the DISC personality to help your association get along and get things done. And it's the DISC. And so you can go online and, take a look at our cheat sheet. And basically the purpose of this cheat sheet is, and I hope I don't lose anyone here because this is probably not something you thought that a lawyer would be talking about right on a Facebook Live, but the purpose of this cheat sheet is to understand others in your community, whether it's other board members, your manager, and to have a better relationship with them. And so the DISC personality model, DISC, divides all people into 4 different personality types. There's the D, the I, the S, and the C. And basically, it tells you what are the pros and cons of working with each personality type. And once you understand people better, sometimes you can understand why they act the way they do. And I'm a strong believer in this. About, how many years ago now? 6 years ago, I went back to school and got my master's in business because I wanted to be a better team leader in my business. And also I wanted to be a better leader in our industry and to help associations that were dysfunctional have some tools in their toolbox so that they can turn things around. And this was one of the things that I learned as I navigated my way through a 2-year program on executive leadership. And basically what it says is that, you can determine how somebody's going to respond typically by what personality type they are. And so, a great example on the cheat sheet that we shared in the comments section, I believe here right now, If you look at like the D personality type, typically the presidents of associations are D personality types. And I'm married to a D, so I know exactly how a D operates. So, D decision makers are direct with people. They sometimes are extroverted. They're okay with change. They make decisions quickly. And sometimes when you're working with a D, to some other personality types, others on the board may think they're moving too fast, making decisions too quickly. And so if you can understand what the D is thinking, what their pros and cons are of their personality type, you all can navigate things better together. Like, for example, my husband's a D, and he likes to make decisions quickly. Like if he wants to buy something, like a large ticket item, let's say like a house, he'll want to get it done in like 2 days. And I am not a D personality. I'm an S personality. I like to research a little more, think about it, think about pros and cons, make a list. And so it used to really cause me a lot of stress and anxiety until I understood that's how he operates. So what we decided to do was kind of meet in the middle. And that's what you may need to be doing with your boards as you're making decisions. So we also have the I personality type, which is the more social personality type, which is a people person, basically. And think about what roles, those people should be in your community and on your board. And what their strengths and weaknesses are. I'm an S personality. And I, am a good team member. I, and assess risk carefully. Like I said, when I'm buying a large ticket item, I want to think about it. I'm optimistic. I'm an introvert. I like being alone, frankly. And, all these different things are listed on this great handout. We also have the C personality. This is what they call the conscientious personality. This is more like a person that may be an engineer or an accountant by trade. And what are pros and cons of working with them? And so how can your board use this? What you can do is you can go online and you can have a free personality test done for yourself or your board. And we've done boot camps on this when there's really extreme dysfunction in an association. I ask everybody to come to the boot camp having taken the personality test. And you can do the free version or you can do the version that's like $40. And basically the free version is less of a deep dive. The $40 one is more of a deep dive and is probably more accurate on this. And basically you find out what everybody is. And everybody goes around the room and says what they are. And then you kind of start understanding why certain people act the way they do. So to give you a really good example, when I go in to meet with the board, I often will be sizing up who's on the board and what their personality traits are. So for example, if I have a number of Ds on the personalities as board members, I'm going to be in and out of there quickly because Ds do not want to sit through a 3-hour board meeting, right? But if we have a lot of Cs on there and they're asking me a lot of questions, or S's, and they're risk assessing, they're going to want me to do more of a deep dive for them. And so you're just going to notice this in all of your transactions, whether you're a manager working with association boards or your board working together, there are different personality types. And the better you understand who is on your board and what their personality type is, and that they can't change, this is just how they're wired, the happier you're going to be. Because you can almost even laugh about it. Like sometimes we'll have team meetings in our office and I'll, make a comment and I'll say, well, that person, wants to do it that way because that's how they're wired in their personality type, right? And even like in our office, sometimes people joke around with me and they say, you need to just get it done, move forward, stop risk assessing, let's just make a decision. So I'm hoping that this tool, this cheat sheet, it's, two-sided, it should be like a 2-minute read, is a useful tool for your association if you are having some dysfunction, so you can better understand each other. Okay, let's talk a little bit about conflict. Conflict is definitely a hallmark of dysfunction in an association. It could be board members in conflict. It could be difficult owners in conflict with the board. And so we also have a great cheat sheet, couple of great cheat sheets on this that I want to mention on our homepage of our webpage. This one is called Dealing with Difficult Persons. and harassment and how to deal with it. And I want to just give you just a quick 411 on this, just the most important information from this cheat sheet. And if you want the deep dive, go to our website. So obviously, whenever there's conflict at a board meeting, it makes the meeting stressful, it makes the meeting longer, it potentially could result in people quitting being on the board. So if you have board member conflict between the two of you, a couple things. Who between the two of you, or maybe there's a 4-1 conflict, I don't know. It just, every association is different. So first, make sure that every board member is given an opportunity to participate. Sometimes, occasionally, we'll see teaming up on a board, and the odd person out is unable to give their position on things, or maybe their feedback is, people aren't listening to it or aren't willing to listen to it. So make sure that that's not happening. Everybody should have a right to state their position when they're serving on the board. And sometimes a little bit of dissent on the board is a good thing, because it makes us all think about what is the best choice for the association. If you have true dysfunction, like let's say you have a board member that their only purpose of being on the board is to raise havoc and create problems and to, just basically damage your association. If that's the case, the president of the association needs to enact time regulations. If that person is hijacking the meeting, it's okay to provide feedback, like I said in the first, point that I was making on conflict, but it's not okay to hijack the meeting with negativity and anger and name calling and being rude. That's not acceptable, and that should never be acceptable in a board meeting. And if your president needs help getting that under control, we're happy to step in. I have gone to so many meetings where our role has been to get the meetings back on track so there's not yelling and screaming and fighting. And I'm here to help you if you need that help. Another suggestion is, if you have board member conflict, the last little piece of advice I'm going to give you is, talk outside the board meeting. So less than a quorum, of course, so we don't violate the open meeting law, to resolve issues. I know that when I was the president of our association several years ago, we had one board member who gave me fits, literally gave me fits. It was so hard to navigate working with this person. And so I asked that person just to have some personal alone time with them and to talk through, like, why are you so unhappy and what could we do to make this situation better? And I found that that was a really successful tool to understand better what that person was feeling and to try to turn that person around. And I'm happy to say that that person's still on our board, and the relationship has gotten so much better between that person and our entire board. So I think that's a really helpful suggestion for everybody. What do you do if you've got a gadfly at your meeting? So it's somebody whose main purpose is just to come in, it's a homeowner, or possibly a designated agent that's been assigned in writing to be an agent of the association at the meeting. And their whole person is just to come in and yell and scream and accuse the board of bad things and stealing money and making bad decisions. So, what do we do? So if you have a gadfly in your association, a really good way to handle that is for the board president to announce at the beginning of the board meeting, okay, these are the ground rules for this board meeting. And, it's going to depend on what your association's problems are having with the gadfly. So if it's no talking out of turn, no yelling, no screaming, no standing up, no aggressive hand gestures, establish that at the outset with meeting rules. Then make sure you're enforcing them uniformly at the meeting. So if the gadfly tests you, make sure that you give them a warning. Say that if you do that again, you'll be asked to leave the meeting. In some cases, if they do it again, the gadfly refuses to leave the meeting, then the board, may want to postpone the meeting, cancel the meeting. It just depends on how bad it is. You'll have to decide what works best for you. That may be a good time to have your attorney come in and help you run the next meeting. Another way to deal with the gadfly is have a homeowner forum at the beginning of the meeting and have a time limit as to how long people are allowed to talk. Maybe it's a minute, maybe it's 2 minutes, depending on how many people are attending the meeting. Now it's virtual, so you have to set up a procedure to do that. And you can definitely do that as a function on Zoom calls or other platforms. And then use parliamentary control. Make sure to know when to table a motion if something's going nowhere. Have the good judgment to table a motion, or know when to limit debate on something. And then last, the best tip I can give you is, respond in a non-argumentative voice as a board. So if you have a gadfly that's coming to a meeting and is upset about something, don't trade, insults. Don't respond with anger. Just listen. Be nice. Listen to what they're saying. Try to acknowledge, we understand that you're frustrated and we're here to help you. Ask them what they want. Sometimes these people feel powerless in the association, and maybe a suggestion would be to ask to have a phone call after the meeting, after the virtual meeting, and see if maybe the president can talk to that person offline to see if there's something that we can do to help that person. Then the last thing I want to talk about is just harassment. So occasionally we'll see a situation where there is true harassment and the board is being harassed by an owner. And, how does the board handle that? If the owner you've tried all these suggestions, not responding with anger and having time limitations on how long they can talk, and, maybe the owners are leaving threatening voicemails, or maybe they're driving by your house doing threatening things, or maybe there's actually been some sort of threatening physical contact or verbal contact. How do you handle that under Arizona law? And so first thing, start documenting. If it's happening to you as a board member, start documenting everything in writing. Just keep a little journal of what's occurred. Have either your management company or the attorney send the owner that's harassing a board member or board in general a letter asking them to cease and desist from, engaging in harassing behavior. And then truly, if it still doesn't stop after that, you have to go legal. And you can go to your local justice court and get an injunction prohibiting harassment. Now, each individual board member would need to do that. And it's a process, of course. You have to fill out paperwork at the court. You have to, swear under oath that the statements you're making are true. And you have to actually have repeated acts of harassment or actual threat of physical harm or actual physical harm in order to get it. So it's pretty difficult to get an injunction prohibiting harassment, but it has been done. We've I've seen hundreds of them be granted over the 23 years that I've been practicing in this area. But it's your burden of proof. It's difficult to get because you're going to have to show exact instances, and the person that you're getting it against has an opportunity for a hearing if they want one. And those hearings are always difficult because they're going to come in and it's going to be a he said, she said thing, and the judge is just going to have to try to navigate and figure out who's telling the truth. So if you are successful and you get one, typically what the order says is that the person has to stay at least 50 feet away from you at all times. So just want you to be aware that that is a remedy. You should definitely have your association's attorney involved if things are escalating to that point. Okay, the last just few topics that we're going to talk about quickly today, and we've been sharing cheat sheets in the comment section throughout this presentation. So you should have in the comment section the difficult people cheat sheet, and then also we had a little bonus one for you on how to deal with a bully if you've got a bully in your association. Now let's talk about how to cure dysfunction by using the Eisenhower method. So I know that when I was reelected to my board, I had a decade off, and then I was reelected to my board in 2016. When I was reelected, our association had a lot of problems that I was thrown into and tried to help solve right from the get-go. And so one of the things that I suggest to associations that are facing a lot of difficult situations, and dysfunctional associations sometimes have so many problems they don't even know where to start, is to use the cheat sheet that we have called How to Accomplish the Board's Goals Using the Eisenhower Method. And basically it's just this cheat sheet. You can find it on our webpage. It's also posted in the comments section. And basically what it is it's a system that shows you how to prioritize urgent and important tasks. And what we found is that most boards get stuck in responding to emails and dealing with difficult owners, and they never get time to think about the really important big issues for your community, like long-term planning for reserves, or long-term capital improvement projects, or, turning around a dysfunctional aspect of your association. Like maybe you've suffered embezzlement, or maybe, there's been, a really bad monsoon that's damaged, not this year, of course, but that's damaged common areas. Or maybe there's been an event that has caused things in your community to have a lot of problems. And so basically what this does is it gives boards a tool, a successful tool that they can write down all their problems, and then we show you how to prioritize them by, grading them on a number scale as to how urgent and how important they are. And then it gives the board a roadmap on what are the things that we should be focusing on, and then what are the things that we should be delegating to others, so that the boards aren't getting caught up in the minutia of running the association, and they're looking at the big picture and helping you plan out of dysfunction or plan for the future of your community. So I really recommend that you use this. I want you to know that I use this for my association when I was reelected to our board, and our board, when I got reelected in 2016, or actually I was appointed at that time, and then I was reelected that December, we were facing embezzlement. Our manager had stolen over $500,000 from our community, and we had to figure that out. We had, a bunch of long-term capital improvements that needed to be, handled. And basically we were down to our last $200,000, and we should have had over $2 million in our reserve, according to our reserve study. Oh, and also our electricity was almost being turned off. That was my second day on the job, my volunteer job being on board. So what I did, and you can see, this is my Eisenhower. The example that I give on this cheat sheet is my association. I came in, I wrote down all the problems that we had, and then we started working from the top down, the most urgent and important problems going forward. And so I want to tell you that this worked. In our community, we are now up to over $2 million in our reserve fund, and that's from 2016 to 2020. So if you're one of these associations in these problems, we've been there, we can help you, and we really hope that you will, look at some of these cheat sheets that we're giving you as resources today and reach out to us. We have our first Friday free call-in. For those of you who may not be aware of it, we offer as a service to our industry the first Friday of every month. You can call us between the hours of 9 and 10 a.m. and ask one question for free. And we have a lot of people that are utilizing it. Many board members and managers are calling our office, and we hope that if you have problems and you don't have a legal budget, that you will consider using that too. Okay, the last subject that I want to talk about is secrets to successful associations. So if you're a dysfunctional association and you're sitting here thinking, I want to know what successful associations are doing to be successful, here's some tips. And we have a cheat sheet on this too. This is being shared in the comments section. What are the secrets that we see that successful associations are doing so that they aren't dysfunctional, so that their time serving on the board is fun and it's not stressful, and you don't dread going to your board meetings, and your homeowners are generally pretty happy. So here they are. Outstanding communication. You have to communicate often if you want to have a successful association. And so your board should make meeting minutes available. You should provide financial information to any owner that wants it. You should have town hall meetings before you have, big issues happening in your association, like changing the tennis courts to pickleball courts, or levying a special assessment, or remodeling the common area, facilities. These are all things that you need to have good communication on. You need to respond to member inquiries in a timely manner, and make sure your management company is too. Make sure that the board has expectations from the management company that they're responding to your homeowners, and the board, if homeowners contact you, respond in a timely fashion. Have surveys done, ask people how they feel about things. Have a newsletter, have social media for your association where you are posting information on Nextdoor or Facebook if your association has one. Make sure you have a website for your association so people have a place that they can go to look up information and to find out when your board meetings are. And you can also use the website to post information about your community, like your budget, your financials, your association documents, architectural review forms. And you can do this in a password-protected fashion. And these are all really great tips. So the boards that communicate more have fewer problems. You should know that right up front. Make sure you have strong leadership. Make sure that you have caring leaders who are running your board, that they're nice to homeowners when they come to board meetings. Make sure that your board is working as a team. Boards are successful if they all work together. And this goes right back to the personality types. So every team has different personalities. That's what makes a team successful. If we had all one personality type on a board, it may not be a successful board. So prioritizing the interests of the community. Make sure that you are putting the interests of the community ahead of yours as a board member. Knowing how to delegate things based upon the individual strengths of each board member. So again, I want to go back to the personality types. So you have a board that consists of many different personality types. Give people jobs on your board, and by jobs, I mean you're volunteer, obviously. So delegate out responsibilities to board members based upon their strengths, okay? So if you have somebody that's a D personality type, they're going to be really good on strategic planning. If you have somebody that's the I personality type that's more social, maybe put them involved in the welcoming committee or planning the annual meeting, the social aspects of the annual meeting. If you have the S personality, you have that person like doing legwork. That would be a person that would maybe do the first draft of the CC&R amendment, and then have the C personality, which is the detail person, maybe serving as a treasurer for your community, or maybe in charge of a capital improvement project if you have like an engineer on your board. So think about what they bring to the table, everybody on the board, and then put them to work. It shouldn't just be the president doing all the work in your community, which is what we see so often. Make sure that the president is able to delegate and work together with the team so that their time as the president isn't so stressful for them. The last few comments I want to make as we're kind of closing out how to have a successful association. Be honest as a board, have integrity, and be transparent. These are all very important qualities for your homeowners to feel confident that you're telling them the truth. And don't hide records. If owners want to review records, provide the records to the owners. I mean, there are certain exceptions of things you can't provide, and those are all outlined in the law, like advice from your attorney, or maybe if you're involved in pending litigation and you don't want to provide any information to your homeowners, regarding our strategy on that. But everything else is basically fair game, and owners should be allowed to see it. And frankly, it should be on your website so that people can download it 24/7. Last, you got to be committed and you got to have determination if you're serving on your board. This is a tough job. I know it. I can tell you, I've served on my board for over 14 years. It's not for sissies serving on the board. You have to have a thick skin. You have to, deal with challenges. You have to deal with unhappy homeowners. And frankly, you never get thank you, ever. Or if you do, it's very infrequently. So just recognize that's what you signed up for. You want to make your community better, and you want to accomplish things, and there's going to be some negativity that comes your way. You have to let it roll right off your back. And know it's a tough job, and know it's not a life sentence, right? You serve on your board for a short period of time, and then it's someone else's turn. And so, just always keep that in your, as you're navigating through the process, have a sense of humor, keep that in mind, and recognize this is not going to last forever. And, those would be, my closing remarks as, successful associations have board members that don't quit, and board members that step up to serve, and board members that can take a little flack and take a little heat and let it roll off their back, and still, have a sense of humor and still move forward and keep accomplishing things for the community. Okay, so we're going to go right into questions. We're right on time. So we just finished our hour seminar, and we're going to now go into questions. Before we do that, I just want to say thank you again to the different neighborhood services departments around Arizona that have sponsored this Facebook Live today. Again, it's Avondale, Chandler, Glendale, Goodyear, Mesa, Peoria, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Surprise, Tempe, and the town of Cream Creek. These different cities and municipalities really care about their residents, and they want to continue to provide free education to board members, homeowners, and managers. So I'd just like to give a quick shout out to them before we go into our questions. Okay, looks like we have a couple questions here today, not too many, which is kind of surprising. I guess maybe we covered everything through the presentation. But the first question is from Mark. Thanks for being here again today. I recognize your name. Should video recordings of open meetings be made available to homeowners? So really good question, Mark. We're going to be talking about board meetings in our last Facebook Live that we're going to be doing for neighborhood services. So make sure you tune into that one. But just a short answer is that yes, we are required to provide recordings of meetings, of open board meetings only, not closed meetings. If the association has them, you would be required to provide them to your owners. That would just be like a regular records request, even though it's just a video. What we're noticing is that most associations are recording their virtual board meetings. And so if you are doing that, make sure that you are saving them somewhere, because if you're using the Zoom platform, you have to actually save them on your own network to keep them after the 30 days after the meeting. If you choose not to save them, that's fine. That's up to your association, because remember, the meeting minutes are always the official record of what happens at your association. So great question. Should they be made available? Yes. It's on a request basis. Some associations are going really tech on us, and they're placing links on their website so that if owners want to go back and listen to them after the fact, they can. And I think that's a great idea if your board is inclined to do that. Okay, David John Juarez, thank you for being here today, David John. What's your opinion on when is the best time of year for an annual meeting? Well, my opinion is you got to look at your bylaws, because usually your bylaws will tell you when your annual meeting should be held. And you usually can't change whatever is listed in your bylaws without amending your bylaws. So first line of defense would be check your association documents. Typically it's in your bylaws. Maybe a secondary place to look would be your articles of incorporation or your CC&Rs. So look there first, and if it tells you a time period to have it, that's when you have to have it. If you don't have a time period, then you want to think about when should we have our annual meeting. I think most boards have their annual meeting during the first quarter of the year, and that way they can do kind of a end of year review for the prior year at their annual meeting, and it's an easy cutoff. So if they have it in January, February, or March, they should have their financials closed out for the end of the previous fiscal year, which typically ends by December 31st. So that would be my recommendation. Now remember, if you're one of those associations in Arizona that hasn't had your annual meeting yet in 2020, you really need to reach out to your attorney or our law firm to help you get going on that, because under Arizona law, you are required to have an annual meeting every year, even in a pandemic. And we've had a number of associations that have had a 5-minute Zoom annual meeting. Basically, it's very simple to do, but we're running out of time now. And so you really need to act in the next 30 days. And we can help you with that if you need help. And don't forget about our virtual board meetings cheat sheet also that can assist you with that. Okay, next question is from Fran Ribara. How do we get community participation on the board? We are an aging community and struggling to get anyone to run. Okay, great question. So Fran, I want you to go to our cheat sheet on our webpage. So it's our annual meeting cheat sheet. And we have some tips on the second side of the annual meeting cheat sheet, which gives you tips on how to get people to volunteer to run for the board. But I'm going to give you a couple quick suggestions right now too. So how do we get more people to participate and serve on the board? Well, look and see who's attending your virtual meetings, right? And take note. And who has been asking questions, or who has been, somebody who stepped up during the pandemic to help, or who's serving on your committees right now. And, reach out to those people first and see if they may be interested in serving on the board. When you reach out to them, make sure you mention that, hey, this isn't forever. Your term is only 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. And we really need good people, qualified people to step up. And another tip I can tell you is if they say no once, follow up with them again. Because on my second time around on the board, I really wasn't planning on being on the board. I have children, I'm trying to run my law practice, and I'd already served quite a bit of time on my board before I had kids. And I, said, hey, if you could find somebody else, that would probably be better because things are so busy for me right now. Well, they circled back to me a second time, and I said yes. So don't give up. If the person initially says no, maybe circle back to them again and ask them if they would be willing to volunteer. And also be sure to check out the cheat sheet, like I said, our annual meeting cheat sheet, because we also have some good suggestions there. Okay, Danielle Mercado, thanks for being here, Danielle. Special assessment bids and work came in less than assessed. Does the board need to get approval from members on special assessment funds remaining, or can the board decide what to do next based on the board's priorities? Great question. So we actually had this exact problem at my association too. So let me give you some advice. So apparently you did a special assessment to pay for something, a capital improvement project in your community. And fortunately, the bids came in less than what you thought they were going to be. So for example, let's just for number's sake, let's say there was a total special assessment of $100,000. And let's say that the bids came in at like $85,000. What you want to do is, the different options that you have are, well, number one, wait until the end of the project, because sometimes there are change orders that might push that up to the 100,000. And the change orders would be like unanticipated things that can come up, like maybe electrical system was broken when you got underneath the clubhouse or whatever. And it's ultimately going to need to be done as part of whatever capital improvement project you're doing. So don't count your chickens before they're hatched, so to speak. Make sure that you're at the end of the project and you have leftover funds that have been, special from the special assessment. So a couple different options. You can return the funds to the owners. I would go back, if I was your attorney advising you on this, I would go back and look at how you worded the special assessment. Did you say it was only to be used for this project? And if so, you may have to go back and get a vote of the membership to use the money in that fashion. If you have an annual meeting coming up, this could be a topic of discussion, and maybe the vote could be done in conjunction with your annual meeting. It really just depends. So I hope that gives you some good direction. And if you need more help, one thing that you could do would be to reach out to us on the first Friday of free call-in, and maybe we can give you some additional suggestions. Okay, the next question is from Tom Korn. What is needed to do in order to change the annual meeting date? So this is kind of a great follow-up question to David John's question. So first you have to determine which document is the annual meeting date listed in. So typically, like I said, it's in the bylaws. So you'll need to go to the end of your bylaws. Typically the last few pages list what it takes to amend the bylaws. More likely than not, you're going to need a vote of the members to do that. Sometimes the board can do it without a vote of the members. And so you just have to determine what the amendment provision is for the bylaws and then amend it. But you probably want to get your attorney involved in this, because you want to look at the language of when the annual meeting needs to be held, because sometimes it has some language that makes it a little bit looser. So it may say the annual meeting needs to be held in the first quarter of the year, or at another time so designated by the board. And that gives you a lot of flexibility if you're one of those associations. So you may want to reach out to your attorney or our law firm to help you navigate how you want to do those amendments. Okay, the next question is from John Peterson. What if you don't have a quorum at the annual meeting? How do you handle it? So really good question. So we've noticed that since the law was changed and mail-in or absentee ballots have been allowed, we've seen most associations being able to get a quorum. And a quorum, of course, just as background, is the minimum number of owners that would have to appear in person or appear by absentee ballot at an annual meeting in order for the annual meeting to proceed forward. So typically we see quorums like 20%, 25%, sometimes a little bit higher, sometimes as low as 10%. It really just depends on what your bylaws say. And so you'll want to look, so if you can't get a quorum at your annual meeting, we have some suggestions on how to get people to participate. We also have those on our annual meeting cheat sheet that I was just talking about when I answered a few questions previously. And so some suggestions would be put a controversial item on the agenda for the annual meeting. You'll get people to participate, such as like a special assessment, long-term project that you're thinking about. Another suggestion, tell anybody that returns an absentee ballot that you will be entitled to be in a drawing for whatever dollar amount you can raise, $100, $200, $500 drawing, and get that money for the kitty or the drawing from your vendors. So ask your management company, ask your lawyer, ask your insurance agent, ask your other vendors if they can donate to the kitty for that purpose. And we found that that's a really successful way to get people to return the ballot by absentee ballot. So if they know they have a 1 in 150 chance that they might win $500, who's not going to return the ballot, right? We have a whole bunch of other suggestions too. Something that you should think about from a legal side is sometimes in your documents, it'll say that if you don't get the quorum at the first meeting, that you can make a second attempt with a lower quorum requirement. So you want to talk with your attorney about whether or not you have that provision. It would have to be specifically written into your documents if you have that provision. Okay, so I hope those were some good answers to your questions. Just some parting words at the end of this virtual seminar today would be thanks again for joining us today for our third of 5 classes in the series of HOA Virtual HOA Academy that we're doing in partnership with Neighborhood Services from all around the Valley. And again, thanks for joining us here today and for making an effort to make your communities better. We appreciate you being here, and I hope you have a great rest of the week.
This is Bruce Wall from the City of Scottsdale's Neighborhood College Program. We're all in this together.
The City of Peoria. We're in this together.
The City of Chandler, we're in this together.
Town of Queen Creek, we're in this together.
Hi, this is Jamie from the City of Scottsdale with my daughter Jocelyn. Whether you're working from home or doing kindergarten from home, we want to remind you that we're in this together.
City of Tempe. We are in this together.